I'm a 46-year-old male, and my wife, 48, recently dropped a bombshell that's unraveling our 19-year marriage. She confessed that her friend Tina had set her up on a blind date. This happened during a girls' night out where Tina, who has always been more on the promiscuous side, decided to play matchmaker for my wife. Apparently, Tina set her up with a guy she'd recently hooked up with but wasn't interested in anymore because she was moving on to someone else. My wife left the house at 7 p.m. and didn't return until 3 a.m. That night, she confessed, claiming she had made a terrible mistake by even agreeing to meet this man. She insisted that nothing happened between them because, according to her, she realized how wrong it was and felt disgusted knowing that Tina had previously slept with him. She apologized profusely, cried, begged for forgiveness, and declared she wanted to work on our marriage. But the confession felt calculated. She told me that one of the reasons she didn't pursue this man was that he worked at a sawmill and didn't earn much money, implying that I was the better financial option. In essence, she admitted that she was actively evaluating whether to replace me with someone she deemed more suitable. To make matters worse, shortly after the girls' night out and before her confession, my wife and Tina had a major falling out. Their once close friendship disintegrated, and my wife began painting Tina as a liar and manipulator. This made me wonder if her partial confession was damage control, preempting anything Tina might tell me. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was gaslighting me, giving me just enough information to make her look bad but not exposing the full extent of what really happened. I didn't even need a full confession to see the truth. The holes in her story, combined with subtle coincidences and red flags from that time, made everything clear. When she told me, I didn't get angry. I just went numb. It was like a switch flipped. I lost all feeling for her. Now, I'm quietly working on my exit strategy, organizing finances, scouting for a new place to live, and preparing to file for divorce. It's heartbreaking to think that she was willing to throw away 19 years of marriage and disrespect not just me but also our 2 children. Advice from readers. One comment that struck a chord was, if she came home at 3 a.m., she definitely slept with that guy. For her friend to set her up on a blind date, your wife must have been sharing thoughts about wanting to cheat or leave you. I wouldn't want to waste another minute with someone who stays with me only because I make more money than the guy they tried to replace me with. You deserve better. Another said, it's clear she was ready to cross the line. Tina sleeping with him was likely the only reason she hesitated. This isn't an accident. It's premeditated betrayal. Get your ducks in a row and leave. Update. 1 month later. A lot has happened since my initial post. My wife is now in full-blown panic mode, desperate to reconcile. However, there's a significant new development. She was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that causes her white blood cells to attack her lungs, resulting in severe asthma attacks. The only medication that manages her condition comes with an eye-watering copay of $133,000 per year after Medicaid. Without my excellent health insurance through work, she wouldn't be able to afford it. It's now clear to me why she partially confessed. She needs me. Since the diagnosis, she's been trying everything to salvage our marriage, including setting up couples counseling. But the sessions have gone exactly as I expected. She's weaponized them to highlight every single flaw I've ever had during our marriage. She blamed me for working 50-hour weeks, which I do to support our family since she has a partial disability and doesn't work, and she even dragged our kids into the discussion to guilt me further. The one topic she refused to discuss? Her date night. Midway through the 3rd counseling session, the therapist turned to her and asked, if you're so good at pointing out everything your husband does wrong, can you turn that same radar on yourself and tell us what you've done wrong? That question was the tipping point. She exploded in anger, deflecting and lashing out at both me and the therapist. It was painfully clear she wasn't interested in true accountability, only in saving herself and maintaining access to my health insurance. Where I stand now. I'm done. I've already started moving forward with my exit plan. I can't keep pouring myself into a marriage with someone who only stays because of financial convenience. She crossed a line that I can't uncross, and no amount of tears or therapy can erase that betrayal. It's a painful realization after 19 years, but I deserve someone who values me as a partner, not as a backup plan. It all started during a counseling session meant to address issues in my marriage. My wife, instead of working on repairing things, lashed out at the counselor, accusing her of being biased and attacking her. The situation escalated quickly, and after several heated exchanges, my wife stormed out in tears. The counselor, observing everything, told me something that cut deep but made perfect sense. Your wife harbors a deep resentment for you, and I don't believe this marriage can be salvaged. I wasn't shocked. I simply responded with a calm yep and nope, thanked her for her time, and told her we wouldn't be back. She offered me individual counseling, which I told her I'd likely take her up on later. During this session, I also opened up about a topic I'd kept bottled inside: my wife's infidelity. Unsurprisingly, it didn't shock the counselor. Rather, it confirmed her suspicions. The ride home was more of the same. My wife angrily calling the therapist a quack while I sat quietly, mentally checked out. Home no longer feels like a home. It's just a house now. I've moved into the spare bedroom and emotionally detached myself from her. To me, we may be married on paper, but I no longer have a wife. If it weren't for her need for the medical insurance my job provides, she would likely still be pursuing other men. Living in a small town of less than 900 people, I knew I'd eventually get answers, and those answers came sooner than I expected. While shopping at the local grocery store, fate brought her affair partner right into our lives. I was at the end of an aisle when he approached her. He was small, maybe 5 feet 9 inches and 150 pounds. Definitely not someone I'd feel physically threatened by. She didn't realize I was there when he had the audacity to ask her out again. She declined, but I couldn't let it slide. I walked up, towering over him at 6 feet 2 inches and 250 pounds of muscle. Looking him dead in the eye, I asked if he was the guy from 2 months ago. When he smugly responded, "What's it to you?" I backed him into the shelves and calmly informed him I'd been her husband for 19 years. His smugness evaporated into terror. My wife tried to intervene, but I shut her down with a firm, "Shut up and listen." She immediately started crying. The man begged me not to hurt him, admitting to the affair right there. My wife's sobbing intensified as he apologized profusely before bolting out of the store. That moment confirmed everything I needed to know. Since then, I've been running on autopilot, working, barely eating or sleeping, and faking happiness for the sake of our kids. But inside, I'm hollow. I've started questioning everything. Do my kids love me, or do they just love what I provide? Do my parents love me for who I am, or because I've always been the good son? The only certainty I have is that I can't stay in this sham of a marriage. I haven't shared this with anyone in my personal life, just strangers on the internet. Maybe my wife was right about one thing. I need therapy to deal with everything I'm going through. Since that grocery store encounter, I've convinced myself to get counseling. My wife, meanwhile, has grown paranoid. She wants to know where I am every minute of the day. I think she senses the storm brewing, the hellfire I'm preparing to rain down on her world. But for now, I'm biding my time, playing the long game. I'm sorting out finances and waiting for her to let her guard down before I serve her divorce papers. I've decided to join a gym after the holidays. I'll pour every ounce of hate, anger, and pain into the iron. I hope to find some peace there, but my thirst for revenge? That's mine to keep. She planned her betrayal. Now it's my turn to plan her reckoning. The situation is complicated further by her recent health diagnosis: eosinophilic asthma with interstitial lung disease, likely a consequence of having COVID-19. The medication she needs costs a staggering $113,000 annually, but with my insurance and Medicaid as secondary, the copay drops to $0. However, once we're divorced, I'll need legal clarity on whether I'm obligated to maintain her medical coverage. She hasn't worked in 20 years and has been on partial disability for 12 of those. I've already begun asking around for the most cutthroat divorce attorney in the area. This isn't going to be easy, but I've made up my mind. I'll endure whatever it takes to reclaim my life from this entitled, selfish woman. The therapist was right. This marriage can't be saved. Now, I'm focused on minimizing the damage to my children and ensuring she can't manipulate me any longer. The storm is coming, and this time, I'll be the one in control. My ex-wife and I are both 26 years old, and we have a 5-year-old son and a 10-month-old daughter together. I work as a manager at an IT company, while she works as a receptionist at a hospital. However, due to her recent pregnancy and maternity leave, she hasn't been working much. I've always been outgoing and social, while she is more introverted, preferring the company of close family members, our children, and a handful of childhood friends. On Saturday, July 1st, 2023, an incident occurred that changed everything. A former employee of mine, a 23-year-old who had recently left the company, came by our house unexpectedly. He thought I would be home since I don't work weekends. He wanted to return some important documents I had left at his place the day before during a work-related discussion. I wasn't home at the time, as I had gone to visit my parents, who lived just 5 minutes away. When he arrived, my wife answered the door. She didn't recognize him, so he introduced himself as someone who had worked for me. She invited him inside and even offered him coffee while he waited for me to return. What happened next shocked me to my core. 2 days ago, this former employee called me and, to my surprise, confessed something I could never have anticipated. Here's how the conversation went, as best as I can recall. Employee: do you know about me and your wife? Me: what do you mean? Explain. Employee: last month, when I came to drop off the documents and you weren't home, your wife invited me in. We started talking and bonded over a shared interest in literature. She was very friendly, and one thing led to another. We started kissing, and then your son walked into the room and saw us. She told him not to worry and sent him off to watch TV. After that, we went upstairs and slept together. Me: are you joking? If you're just trying to cause trouble. Employee: I'm not joking. I know what I did was wrong, but I wanted to tell you because your son saw what happened, and I couldn't live with myself if you found out years later and thought I didn't care. To be clear, your wife is the one who's married, not me. I didn't force her to do anything. Me: I don't believe you. I'll ask her, and if it's true, I'll deal with you appropriately. Employee: fair enough. I just thought you should know. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I was furious, hurt, and blindsided. This former employee had only started working for me in May, and as far as I knew, my wife didn't even know he existed until the day he showed up. When I confronted her about it, she initially denied everything. But after I told her what the employee had said and pointed out that he had resigned shortly after the incident, she broke down and admitted to everything. She apologized profusely, claiming she didn't know what had come over her. When I mentioned that our son had seen her, she was overcome with guilt and tears. I told her I needed space and left to stay at my parents' house for a few days. During that time, I FaceTimed with my children daily to reassure them that I would be back soon. My parents and her family have been incredibly supportive, and none of them condone her actions. After much thought, I've decided that there is no coming back from this. I have made up my mind to file for divorce. Custody and financial concerns. My primary concern now is ensuring that I don't lose the house and that I maintain a close relationship with my children. I've heard too many stories of men in similar situations losing their homes and being reduced to weekend-only dads despite their wives' infidelity. I want to avoid that at all costs. Thankfully, the house is solely in my name, which simplifies that part of the process. As for custody, my ex-wife and I have discussed a 50-50 arrangement, which we both feel is fair. That said, I would be more than happy to have full custody of my children if the court deems it appropriate. The path forward. Since my initial post, I've had a serious conversation with my wife about the divorce. While she is upset about it, she understands that it is inevitable. We've been living separately since the incident, and I've made it abundantly clear that reconciliation is not an option. I've consulted my parents' lawyer and have taken all necessary legal steps to ensure a smooth process. The divorce papers have been drawn up, and I am ready to move forward. This chapter of my life has been painful, but I am focused on the future. My children are my top priority, and I will do everything in my power to ensure they grow up in a loving and stable environment. While I am heartbroken by what has happened, I am determined to come out of this stronger for their sake. For now, I am simply looking ahead with optimism.